Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down, Shut Up. Special morning edition because we got someone in the EU today. So today we got a soda poppin', I think. A soda? The soda poppin'. I think it's take a soda. Yeah, there we go. Soda poppin', I think someone else. Anyway, let's bring him on. Hey, soda, can you hear me? Hello? Am I audible? One sec, guys.
Hold up just a second,
Oh, no
and
worries.
just gotta do some last minute things.
Hey, Zane, what's good, buddy?
Yo, can you hear me now?
Hey, yeah. Can hear you just fine. How you doing?
Yeah, great. That's great to hear. Sorry, just some last minute things and all that. It's everything's fine. Everything's set it up.
Cool, 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 cool.
Just gotta put the music for the game. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, great. Right on. All right, so welcome on. So I was looking at what you had mentioned. Looks like you're running into issues because you're currently in. You said
Uh,
gold, platinum. You
Yeah,
said
Gold 5, I main
okay,
DJ.
okay.
Generally, the reason I'm asking for your advice and all is generally because I got recently to Street Fighter,
Mm-hmm.
taken refugee, and generally I want some general advice on what to like prove, what to like keep on the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some like specific stuff, like generally dealing with modern scheme because
Okay.
I usually I usually have this issue where I struggle with those kinds of players, especially the ones that like spam specific moves or
Mm-hmm.
strings.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
also I think I do have an issue with auto piloting because I have seen one of your past OVDs on video demands,
Mm-hmm.
like from streams other with other players,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that I do have that this issue of like autopiloting and having specific tactics and doing things like as if it's like something, how can I explain this, like you have this format in your brain
Mm-hmm.
and you do it regardless if it comes as a
Yep.
risk with not like necessarily a bad thing, but like generally to keep a lookout on controlling it a little more, like not necessarily abolishing autopiloting, but not allowing it to cause me to lose matches.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Also, as I said on DMs, keep in mind I am on Wi-Fi
Yeah.
for this session. It might come as a bit of an issue, not necessarily, but uh,
Yeah, it should be
just to
fine.
keep that in
Yeah, it should be fine.
mind. Yeah.
For what we're doing here, really what I'm trying to evaluate is like kind of where you're at, what things you might be struggling with, and kind of come up with, what the next steps would be, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
it's not going to be, obviously, at the rank you're at right now, the rank I'm at right now, it's just not going to be competitive as a match, really, for the most part. But the idea would be for me to try to figure out, exactly what's happening for you, and then go from there, right? So, I invited you to the room, onto the custom
Yeah, I'm
room.
already in.
Cool.
Yep,
So
yep.
what we'll do is we'll run our first to three, as best we can. I
Of
know you're on
course.
Wi-Fi;
Mhm.
it's international. All that we'll do what we can, right?
Mhm.
From there, after we do the first three, we'll do a little replay review, right? So we'll hop into one of the games. Take a look at the replay, see what we can kind of identify and glean from there. After that, we'll take a look
Mhm.
at one of the games that you sent me, right? Depending on time, we'll see how it goes. But we'll take a look at one of those games as well because the games that
Of
you
course,
sent
of
me
course.
are more likely indicative of what you're actually seeing in ranked right now, right? Because those would be ranked
Mhm.
matches.
Yeah,
From
those are
there, yeah.
ranked matches,
Okay,
and also just keep in mind because, as I said, to do of real life work and the likes,
mm-hmm.
I haven't had much time until
That's fine.
today to get back into Street
Yeah,
Fighter,
yeah,
so I may be a little rusty, but it's
no worries.
still so an evaluation of like my current skill.
No worries, no worries. So we'll take a look at that, and then after that, if there's any specific situations that I think are worth deep diving into, we'll take a look at the lab. Right, we'll hop to the lab and run through that.
Okay, sure
And then
thing.
at the end, if there's time, we'll do another first to three. I know you have some time constraints, so we'll see where we're at with that. But yeah, otherwise, go ahead and queue up. I'm gonna deafen in Discord, mostly because I tend to talk during this portion of the show, right? As I'm
Mhm.
evaluating what you're doing and all that, and articulating my thoughts as to what's happening.
Okay,
And I
yeah,
also may not rematch right away. So as I continue talking and thinking about what you're running into and all that, the timer may run down. Don't worry, I'm still here.
of course.
It may run down a little low, but we'll get through it, right? So go ahead and queue up,
Okay, that's fair enough.
and we'll go from there.
Okay, do you prefer player one or player
Whatever
two?
whatever side you're more comfortable with, go ahead and queue up there, and I'll queue up on the other side.
I usually go on player one, but like it's not a huge deal. Like I
Okay.
have been playing like Tekken,
Mm-hmm.
and basically with the way I see it, the sides are not as like a huge deal as
Okay.
compared to Tekken because Tekken has a lot of more technical stuff, so you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
necessarily get used.
yeah. The
Whereas in
rotation is
Street
different, right? You
Fighter,
got to go
yeah,
counterclockwise. Yeah, no worries. Street Fighter is 2D, so it's simpler in that regard. So,
yeah, so it's much more simple.
yep.
Yeah,
All right, buddy. Good luck.
good luck.
Hey, Fanta Shadow. Thanks for following and joining in. Yeah, I know. I try not to talk too much while I'm working with a person, but this section I tend to talk to people. So, welcome in. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Hope your Street Fighter grind is going well. That said, Sodapop, they're on the Discord for Fight Rise. I haven't had a chance to play them yet. They're international. I think our time zones are pretty different. So let's see what's going on here. Gold DJ, right? Okay. And 1600 right on. Yeah, I'm 1600 right now on my Ken. Nice. Yeah, they got the combos. Oh. Nice. I wish I was 1700, dude. Okay, so what I'm seeing right now is that I think he's not really using some of DJ's other tools here. Kind of content to just back up. Right? Tried to DP me there. Really content to back up, right? Oh, shoot. It's hard to DP. Alright. So tips for you guys, if you are running into lag like this, like, you do any of the... Oh, I didn't kill him. Should've supered. Alright. Yeah, normally what I see DJs use is they try to use their crouching medium punches, right, to try to hit me, and then whiff punish with those bigger buttons. As for... Oh, shoot. Obviously, a little bit of rollback and lag, right? That's just how it goes. What I will say is that if you are running into players like this, where you're lagging a little bit, switch your combo structure to very simple combos. He said as he did a 2-frame link. On Sunday? Yeah, I'm playing, dude. Yeah, Xena played in the Pride battle on Sunday. Yeah, so what I'm seeing right now, for the most part, is it's pretty typical gold to platinum level play, right? I think they're got a pretty good idea on how to control the character. They know they know some combos when they land him. But I think the issue ends up being, right now anyway, Obviously the neutral game is probably something they need help with. And we could talk about defense too, right? Okay, DP. A lot of DI neutral. We saw a couple of those already. I'm assuming that tends to work in gold and platinum, mostly because people are just kind of pressing buttons, right? So if you randomly DI, well, you know what I mean. If they DI in neutral like that, it's more likely going to work, right? Probably an anti-air stuff too. Ugh. So you can see, like, they're backing up a lot, right? Like, if I just stand or if I walk forward, kind of content to just keep walking. They're kind of content to walk back, right? Oh, shoot. Yeah. Again, what I think when we talk about Street Fighter, especially at this level, I mean, this, he's clearly played Tekken before, right? And he kind of understands how fighting games work and spacing and all that. But typically what I see at this rank for the most part is that there's usually one or two things we can talk about that will help them start winning games faster. In this case, I think one of them is going to be standing their ground a little bit. So, like, if you notice, you're going to walk back, right? Like, they tend to walk backwards to try to get space back so they can kind of roll back there to bait me into doing something, right? So the first thing I think is they're just going to have to learn how to kind of stand their ground a little bit more, right? I mean, maybe, but I think the real thing is that this is probably how they play all their matchups, right? Is they kind of walk backwards, throw fireballs, and then jump, right? See? And then the neutral DIs, right? So, again, like I was saying, that probably works a lot. Yeah, a lot of jumps, which is pretty typical, again, right? Wake up DI. But you can see I don't really need to apply any Oki, right? I don't really need to do a whole lot. I could just wait for them to do something and then try to react to it, right? Now, obviously, with 2 frames of roll, 3 frames of delay, 3 frames of rollback, it's a little bit tougher to do that. But the idea is the same, right? I don't need to really do too much on Oki here if I apply it. Yeah. Okay. So, very active on defense as well. So, let's bring him back on. Let's talk about what might have happened through that set. Hey, Soda, what do you think? How do you think that went?
Okay, at least on my end, for my skill, I think it was fine. I mean, what can I say? I wasn't like, I did got like a round or so, but
Mm-hmm.
like, beggars can be choosers. So, I mean, you gotta up your skill. I'm fine with that. I'm content.
Okay. So let's talk about what was happening here. So I think, like, and it's very typical of folks kind of at the range, MR, the skill, like, ranks that you're at. One of the things that we tend to see a lot of in these ranks is, like, there's a lot of backing up, right? Trying to create space for yourself by backing up. Usually that happens because, and you can feel free to correct me at any point, but typically when we see that, what it means is that the player wants to create space for themselves to try to zone with fireballs and stuff, because DJ has a good fireball. And then once I get too close to you, you'll try to jump over me or bait me into doing something, right? So you're trying to get me to walk forward so that you can hit me, right? And that kind of can work at these rinks because people tend to press a lot of buttons. But you saw what happened was that what all I had to do was walk forward and wait for you to do something, and then when you did, I just had to try to react to that. Right now, obviously with the rollback and the delay and all that and the lag and all that is understandable, but the premise is the same, right? So what was happening during games anyway, was that you'd back up, trying to get some space for yourself. You wait for me to get close, and then if I landed a hit of some kind, or air to air, or anti air or whatever, you go for a DI, right? You try to
Oh
DI
yeah.
me, and then
Yeah.
I would, react to that either by blocking, parrying,
Yeah,
dash back, whatever, right?
I'm not the only one who does it on gold ranks, or at least on silver where I started.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, you ain't wrong there.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
it's
again, that's
more of
pretty typical,
the
right? So sorry, good.
Yeah, it's also the fact that like drive impact being like a primary mechanic does make it like wanting me to use it, but it sometimes leads to some bad scenarios.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Admittedly, on the replays I sent you, I did manage to like also pull a few drive reversals, which are pretty cool to say the least, but
Okay.
with more situational. But
Mm-hmm,
hey, that's
mm-hmm.
something. But yeah, drive impact especially, which is like the main thing, is yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta control it. Also,
yeah.
another thing that I have an issue is like using drive rust, like either
Mm-hmm,
by canceling it from light or heavy
mm-hmm,
that can allow it,
mm-hmm.
so I can like build up more pressure and also put myself on plus frames.
Yeah, yeah. So we could talk about some of that stuff. I think
Hmm.
like what I'd like to try to do is kind of what you're asking for, which is let's identify maybe one or two things that we can kind of improve upon, right? The game is really deep, obviously, as you're probably learning now. And you said you came from Tekken, so I think you have a very good idea of how fighting games work in
Oh
general,
yeah,
right? So
yep, I know.
let's take a look at this replay. This is one where you took the first round. So let's take a look here. What we'll do is just kind of review this and
Okay.
see what was happening and why certain things may or may not have been working, and we can try to identify some
Hmm.
patterns that we might be able to
Yeah,
address
sure
or
thing.
fix, right? So, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
the big one is you aren't really using drive rush, right? Like either as a cancel or a raw for Dee Jay, which is really just more of a you have to get used to it type of thing. The idea there typically is to be able to close this gap, right? So let's take a look at the game, and we'll find some examples we can talk about. So,
Yep, yep. Sure thing. Let me just
oh, sorry, one sec. Let me open up the. Sorry, I'm gonna share my screen in
yeah, yeah, screen
Discord.
share. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that is what I was gonna tell
yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah. Sorry,
No.
I usually do that. I totally forgot. There you go. I should be sharing in Discord now, so let me know if you can see it.
Okay, I think it looks fine.
All right.
180p, 60 FPS. Okay, we're
Yeah.
good.
Good. Good. Good. Okay. Cool. So round start, right? Right. The first thing you tend to do is back up here, right? So in all the rounds that we played, the very first like 2 seconds is you holding back like this, right? So, um, again, at the current ranks you're at, it's probably not a huge deal to do that. But and I don't know how much this matters in Tekken. Maybe less, maybe more. I don't know. But controlling space matters a ton in this game, right? So the more space you give up here, the closer you are to the corner, and the corner can be pretty brutal, right? So again, at your ranks, it may
Mhm.
not matter as much, but moving forward, what I ideally want to see here is you just kind of standing your ground a little bit here, right? So you don't need to back up necessarily. You could just crouch block if you wanted to here.
Oh yeah,
You,
that's also
yeah,
usually something I do,
hmm
but like sometimes I do get a little carried and go back,
yeah,
which also kind of makes it more predictable.
yeah. And honestly, like it's not a huge deal right now for you here to not do that, but it is something to keep in mind, right? Watch what happen. What like let's take a look and watch what happens to our positioning on the screen as the round goes on, right? So you back up, throw fireball, totally fine, right? And then you dash up, right? So like if you look at the space where you're standing here, you throw the fireball, and then you dash up, right? So like space wise hasn't really changed at all, right? You kind of backed up, went forward, threw the fireball. I got hit because I tried to throw a fireball against your heavy fireball. But as far as spacing, it hasn't really changed a whole lot, right? So the same thing can happen by you just not moving at all, right? Trying to get an
Yep.
idea of what I want to do. Now, again, doesn't matter too much right now, but let's see how the rest of the round goes. Right? Okay, Sobot. All right, so One of the things I'll mention here, and then we could talk about it again later, is I think you may need to take a look at Dee Jay's buttons here and kind of get a better idea of the ranges you could be standing at, right? So you can see here,
Hmm.
like, you're trying to jab me, right? But I'm kind of standing outside the range of that, right? So, like, pressing these buttons here isn't really going to do a whole lot if I don't do anything about this, right? And then when I press my button, it hits you, right? I mean, you block it, and this is great. But you can see I'm not, like, whiffing the button, right? Except there when you jumped instead of moving forward, right? So, you know, that is what it is. But the reason I bring that up now is because in Street Fighter 6, especially, a lot of moves have a ton of recovery frames, right? So even like jabs and stuff, they do tend to have a little bit of recovery more than previous games, right? So you don't really want to get into the habit of whiffing too many buttons overall, because good players, once you climb up and get into those ranks, they'll whiff punish you for it, right? So like if you're just
Yeah,
pressing buttons,
the
you'll get hit,
mhm.
right? So
Yeah, the idea with what I was doing, like with the jabs, is to like kind of poke and also
mhm.
probably create some pressure, but I can see that it doesn't exactly work effectively.
It doesn't work if you can't land them, right? So if you were in my face a
Yep.
little bit closer and pressing those buttons, then that works beautifully, right? You're able to press buttons against me. I have to block. I have to, you know, hold that, if you will. But if you're whiffing them, it's not really putting any pressure anymore, right? So you have to be
Yeah.
able to land those moves. Now, again, this is something that longer term, I think you'll want to look through, and we could talk about some of the things to get through that. But again, like not whiffing buttons is going to be huge, right? A lot of players at this
Mhm.
rank, at these ranks rather, even into like diamond, whiff a lot, right? So like they whiff buttons a lot, or they press buttons that are unsafe at ranges that are too close, right? So like if you press a big button up close and there's a ton of recovery, you get punished for it, right? So
Mhm.
something to keep in mind as you climb. And then there's other things that we can talk about that I think will help out a ton as well. But the being able to not whiff buttons is going to be big, right? So let's take a look at the rest of the match here. All right, so you see what happens there, right? I just kind of am standing outside the range of the buttons you want to press, and then I just press my button and hit you, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at this, right? Like you're pressing lights, right? I kind of noticed that. So, you know, I'm standing at a range where those buttons may not reach, right? And then I just kind of press my button, which does reach, right? So
Yep.
something to think about. All right, so this is actually pretty good, right? When you talk about Street Fighter 6 in the corner, everyone talks about how brutal the corner can be. So escaping it at any cost is usually a good idea here, right? So that was a good jump for you to get over me here. Normally, if I'm paying attention better, I guess I'd be able to anti-air you as you jumped here. But you managed to you timed your jump so that I was pushing a button, right? So like I pressed my button, big committal button here, stand heavy punch for me, right? It kind of whiffs, right? Because I was kind of
Mhm.
expecting you to try to press something here instead of jumping. So you did jump, right? Got away from me here, so that's good.
The
But
only thing that I missed is the cross up,
yeah, I was gonna
but
say, you typically want to come down with a cross up button, but it's okay, right? The idea was there, and I'm happy about that, right? So, jumping out of the corner is good. Jumping forward, typically neutral jumping in the corner is not as good. Like if I was standing a little bit closer here and you neutral jump, I could probably anti-air you here. I was not. I was standing a little bit further away, so not a huge deal from this position here. But you do have to be careful, right? Some folks will, and when they see this, they'll just anti-air you, right? Like a Cammy DP will hit you for free,
Mhm.
right? Especially
Oh
against modern,
yes.
right? So if you are trying to jump on modern, right, since they have access to the one button DPs and anti-airs and
Oh
stuff, it's a
yes.
little bit
The
easier for them.
dreadful
Yeah,
the dreadful one
yeah, yeah,
button DPs.
yeah. So
No, that's also kind of a bit of a short rant. Is that I so hate modern. Like I don't mind it just existing for casuals or people who want to get into the game, but it just so ruins the experience, and it sometimes kind of infuriates me.
sure. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that modern is here to stay, right? So the way that I typically see it is that it's basically, I don't know other Street Fighter games you've played or other games, but it's basically another character, right? So an ism, like if you played Alpha, right, or a groove if you played
No, it's my
any.
first time playing Street
Okay,
Fighter. Only experiences with Super Smash Bros, but that's
okay,
not really a fun
it's
game.
a little
And
different, right?
also,
So the way I
yeah.
would see it there is, if if you could, it's legal to use, right? And it's basically just another style of a character, right? So in like previous Street Fighter games, like Alpha, or even like Capcom vs SNK, which has the grooves, is basically just another way for the character to be played, right? So you kind of have to treat it that way.
Hmm.
They have access to certain things, and they don't have access to a lot of things, right? So
Yeah.
modern does tend to lose a
Also,
bunch of stuff, right? So
Also, the ism system in Alpha thing, which is like you can choose Asm,
hmm
Xism, or
hmm
Vism, which is like basically the different mechanics and how its character works. I think Vism is like the system.
Oh well, if you want to talk about the the actual ones in alpha, right? So they had like three
Yeah,
isms, right? That went for you can
mhm.
have custom combos, or you can use the original alpha system with the supers, or you can also there's also I forget the other one, but you can basically change how the character's played, right? At least in terms of
Yeah,
their super system, right, and how that works, as well as what access to certain tools they have, right? In CVS, right, you had different grooves, which allowed characters to be played in different ways, right? So the super system was different. They had access to different things like parries or not parries, right? So in my
mhm.
opinion, typically you consider modern as a different style of the character, right? So again, they
Yeah,
have
which is
access to
nice
certain
because
things,
mhm.
like they have access to the one button DP, right? They have access to one button supers, but they lose access to things like certain buttons, right? Certain buttons are missing, which means certain combo routes are missing, and they typically have lower damage overall if they're not using motion
Yeah,
inputs, right?
so
So,
yeah, if they don't use
um,
the motion
yeah,
inputs, they lose like 20% of
yeah,
the
it's
damage they
20%
normally
on
use.
the super itself, right? Or sorry, on the special, whatever SP, whatever comes out from the SP button, right? So,
Hmm.
and it's typically done by scaling, right? So,
Yep, yep.
anyway, that's all you have to really think about, right? But when it comes to when you run into modern in ranked, right? That's what you have to watch out for now. It's like, okay, I have to
Yep.
be a little more careful about my jumps. I have to be a little more careful about leaving gaps in strings and stuff because they have access
Hmm.
to those tools, right? That's just what it is. So certain things that you might be able to get away with against a classic player, you may not be able to get away with against a modern player, right? So
Hmm.
that's just really the way to think about it. How you feel about modern overall aside, right? But when you run into it in ranked, right, because you can't control exactly who you play, that's how I would approach it, right? Try to
Yeah,
consider it
that's
as a separate character. You know,
that's the best approach. Yeah, I agree with you. Anyways, let's get back
yeah,
into the replay.
yeah. All right. So something that's very common, very very common actually across all ranks, is that people tend to walk backwards once something happens, right? So if you look right here, and this happened to you twice, and this kind of goes back to kind of standing your ground a little bit. Right here, back a little more. All right, so jump over me here. All right, you back up to kind of far away, right? None of your buttons will reach me now. You want to try to throw fireballs, which is fine. Try to leap, swifts, right? I press this big button, you block it, right? Good.
Hmm.
So the next thing you do is you try to back up out of this, right? So it's like, oh crap, I just blocked something. I need to back up, right? So if you look at your input here, you're holding back, right? So what tends to happen in these situations here is that you're getting clipped low as you're trying to back up, right? So you see, I actually walk forward a little bit, and in Street Fighter 6, typically forward walk speeds are faster than back walk speeds. So I'm able to close the distance while you're backing up and then tag you with a low, right?
Hmm.
So very very common, something I see across everywhere, right? So the way that you kind of not get hit by this, right, is by just continuing to crouch block, right? You don't necessarily need to back up all the time. Now, if the opponent is not pressing buttons like the way I am here, then you can probably back up out of pressure. It's not a big deal. But if you notice that you're getting clipped low a lot, which might be happening to you, I'm not sure. We'll look at the replay. A lot of times it's because you're trying to just back up out of pressure, right? Something happens, you try to back up, and the other person will just walk forward and tag you low, right? And
Yeah, it's
then
kind of like some sort of paralysis that's like the fear of like getting punished even harder and
mhm.
then backing off, but then the low hit.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's fundamental to Street Fighter 6 actually, right? And 2D fighters in general, right? Because you don't have the forward and back space like the Z-axis. You can only control your 2D, left and right, right? The X-axis. The only way to create space is to back up, right? Or typically the way to create space that you can control is to back up. There's other ways to do it, right? By in the neutral game, but the easiest and most consistent way typically is to back up, right? But because you can't block low while you're walking backwards, right? That's why you get clipped by crouching medium kicks and other lows, right? So that was the raw drive rush here, right? So the way I used it here was to close this gap, right? And force you to react to something, right? So Dee Jay has a really, really good drive rush, right? So you could definitely use that in neutral. And again, like you mentioned, out of drive rush, you get plus frames, right? So, right, I'm actually plus after this move lands, right? And you have to kind of hold this pressure, right? So Dee Jay does have a good drive rush, right? So you can definitely use that and incorporate that more often. It's just something you'll have to practice in the lab, I think, right? So you see the way input here is basically just by doing forward parry, right? So whatever else you want to do it.
Oh yeah, actually I do use that as well whenever I do use drive rush. I do the shortcuts
Yep.
because if I don't do it, it would be too predictable.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So that's basically what you want to do here. So I try to do it out of my parry, right? So I parry your fireball here. All right, so I drop that combo, no big deal. Right, so I'm trying to do it out of the fireball here. Right, so I parry your fireball and drive rush right after that. If my timing was better, this would have been a perfect parry, right? And I could drive rush immediately after that, but it didn't quite happen. So I drive rush anyway, it closes the gap. The big reason why people use this right now is because it allows you to kind of bypass neutral, right? So the quote-unquote neutral skip, right? You don't have to worry about walking forward, you don't have to do anything else. You just basically run at me full speed. And if you are unable to check this drive rush by pressing a button to stop me from it, you're gonna have to block, right? And this forces the plus frames, right? So
Yep, and also I think in this round, and I think probably a few others, I did accidentally put not in this one drive rush, but I did put occasionally accidentally pressed buttons and got myself clipped into combos.
yeah. So some of that I think might just be because of delay and rollback and all that, where it's like it looked like you could press and not really. Like I
Also,
dropped
kind of
combo.
like of a panic reaction.
Yeah. It looked like you're trying to DP me here, right? So after this,
Not exactly DP. This one is Jackknife Maximum, which is basically a charge move.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this that typically any sort of upward moving uppercut type move, I'm gonna refer to as a DP. Typically, this is actually referred to as a flash kick, right? Because it's down charge.
Yep.
But it's still the idea would be that you're trying to hit me with it, right? So you had down charge here. You tried to try to DP through this. The thing that I'll mention here though is that typically when you are trying to use dragon punch like that or up kicks, or up kicks is the other thing we refer to it as, right? Right there. Typically you want to use the OD version, right? So the reason for that is because of the invulnerability frames, right? So from here.
It does occasionally where I do occasionally don't get it because I sometimes don't even charge it the right amount of time. It's like 1 second.
I think it's something around 45 frames. I have to look at Dee Jay's thing.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to do something like that, right? Where you use the OD version. And the reason for that is because of the invulnerability, right? So if you're trying to blow through pressure like that, because if you look at the situation, right, Ken is actually plus here, right? After the drive rush here, right? So you can't really press a normal button here. If you were to try to do the up kick here, it actually probably would work because I'm trying to throw you, right? So if I was on time in my throw here, right, I might be able to throw you out of this because the startup of this may not be invulnerable to throw, right? So if I was on time here, you may actually get thrown. So let's take a look at this again, just to make sure I'm not lying to you. I could be out of range, but let's find out. Right, so it actually whiffs, right? So it probably would have been fine. I might not be in the right spacing for that throw to have worked, right? So that's probably why I walked up. But again, if you're trying to blow through what I'm trying to do, typically the safest way is to use an OD move there, right? So you do have meter to burn, so it's not a huge deal. But again, if you are gonna DP like that, or you're gonna upkick like that, then use the OD version, right? So, because it would hit me, right? We saw in the example, it hits me, right? It knocks me back, right? And then now you know are out of the situation, right? Because if I was paying closer attention here and able to react to this jump, I could theoretically DP, right? So I actually try to anti-air you here, and it actually does land, right? Punish counter here. So that means that you were in recovery of your aerial when you came down, right? So, right? And then here's the DI, right? So this is kind of a habit I think you have, right? Where something will happen, you'll get hit, and if you don't back up, you'll DI instead, right? So obviously I get hit here because I autopilot into like a cancel, right? Right? Mostly because this normally links, but I missed it. So anyway, you DI through this is good, right? It actually works out. Right? And then I was zoning here, you had the combos, right? So this is good. Right? And then you jump my fireball, good. Man, I dropped that combo. Fortunate. Alright. We'll talk about anti-airs in a sec. Let's get through the round. Alright, good jumps. Cool. So, like, I think your innate sense of when to jump is actually pretty good overall. You knew when you had an idea when I wanted to throw a fireball, so you just jumped, and that was perfect, right?
There's also the alternative of using DJ's Just Cool, which is basically kind of like that stance where he kind of like does
yeah, the
he
sway,
backs off
right?
a little, and then
Yeah.
I can press forward punch to dash forward. That gives me invisibility to projectiles.
Right. You can use that too to get around fireballs. I do think that typically jumping is going to be a slightly bigger reward because you land the jump in, right? And if you were able to convert that into a bigger combo, right? But you can use that too, the sway, to get around fireballs if you have a read on the fireball. But you can't quite do it on reaction. You still have to predict, right? Which is the same thing for jumps, I suppose. So if you wanted to use that, you could, right? Get through the fireball and hit me. That's totally fine too. But in either case, though, you did well to navigate the fireballs, right? So something I'll note here is I had to adjust, right? So once I noticed you were doing those DIs, right, and some of the jumps, you can kind of see that I changed how I was applying pressure. And let's see what happens here.
Yep.
So same thing, you back up, try to get space because you want to throw fireballs. Right, and then now I'm just trying to get into your space and press buttons, right? So this happened to clip your leap, right? So we can put buttons here. Right. Try to jump there. Get thrown. Right. So what I'm gathering here rather from this is that the comfortable space for you right now is like here, right? 3/4 to almost full screen. You want to be standing here. That's where you're comfortable. And I will say that unless you're playing a zoner like JP or Guile, it's going to be very difficult for you to win from this position, right? So, it's okay to back up to create space for yourself if you want to throw fireballs, but eventually you're going to have to get in there to beat me, right? So let's see what happens. Right, so I missed my anti-air there. We can talk about some combo routing here. Something we can look at, but...
This is more of a bread and butter combo, which is I found from the super combos wiki.
Yeah, the wiki. Yeah.
Sorry for the stuttering. Just sometimes having to process what to say.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? You just need to go through the motions, right? But let's talk about what happened right here, right? So you DM me here, right? Kind of drop the combo, no big deal. Right, I jump over you, and then the same thing happens again where you kind of autopilot it into DI, right? I think you're expecting me to block both of those and then press a button, right? Because you got me before with it. So now what I did was I'm not willing to press a button anymore. I'm just kind of wait for this DI, right? So instead I do that and just punish you for the whiff DI, right? So DIing in neutral like that at this rank is probably going to be okay because people press a lot of buttons, but if people adjust to you pressing DI, you'll have to stop using it, right? So what people will do typically is they'll stop pressing their non-cancelable buttons, right? They'll just press like their lights and mediums that are cancelable and wait for you to DI. And then once you do, they'll counter DI you and then punish you with that, right? So if that's what's happening You just have to stop DI, right? Like, don't use it as much in neutral in this manner, right? So, right, get thrown. Good, just block through. That's good. Well, actually, did you delay tech here? Let's see. Okay, so when you do like rises and stuff, like when you back roll and stuff, are you just using light punch, light kick to do it, or are you delay teching here?
Hold up, can you get it a little back
Yeah,
so
let's
I
see.
can see it again?
So there's the knockdown, and then there's the input
Oh,
there.
that's the back roll? Yep.
Okay, you press it again here.
This one was more just in case.
Okay, all right, you get thrown.
Oh, yep, that was late throw, yeah.
Okay, so you're aware of late teching, right? Delay teching then. Okay,
Yep, yep.
cool. So you do it here, it's totally fine, right? All right, so good jump, right? So I have you in the corner here, and you just jump out. It's good. Right. So you do have to be careful about autopiloting that string in particular because the Sobot is -6, right? So
Yep.
this only tags you because you're walking back, but from this space right here at -6, right? Some characters can punish you for this, right? So like I think Ken, if I'm paying attention and can react. Right. So a 6 framer can be punished pretty easily by most of the cast, right? So you do have to be careful about that spacing, like autopiloting into the string rather, right? So Sobot typically again is a safe cancel as long as it's spaced correctly, but in the corner here this is too close now, right? So you have to be careful, right? But the reason you get tagged here though is because you're moving back again, right? So Ken's crouching medium kick is actually a little bit slower than 6 frames, 7 frames, but you're backing up, right? Like again, pretty typical, right? You landed, something happened, right? It was blocked in this case, like your Sobot was blocked. So you're trying to create space by backing up now, right? So all I have to do is press my button, basically, and it tags you. Right, so if I were to classify this round, right, a lot of what happened to you here had to do with some of the autopilot decisions you made around DI and backing up, right? So as soon as something happened mid-screen, where either you got hit or there was some sort of read you had, you went for DI here, right?
Yep.
And then all I had to do really was just wait, right? So you hit me with this DI here. It's like, great, that worked. Unfortunately, drop this. So your natural instinct is to do it again, right? Right? So, because it worked, right? It worked earlier, so I wouldn't work again, right? But instead, I kind of jump over, right? So that was one.
It's also because I wanted to like get the punish so I can stun you and then go for the combo, finish it with the uppercut, the heavy,
Yeah.
so I can cancel it into a critical.
Yeah, trying to super through it, right? So here, unfortunately, I should have supered. I didn't. Something that's on me, I suppose. I thought that would be enough, but at any rate, like really, what happened here? Some of the autopilot decisions you made got punished, right? So you backed up to a combo, right? DI'd, a little unsafe and neutral to a combo there, right? So the other thing I'll mention, I tried to jump a little bit more as the games went on. So you do have to be a little bit better about anti-airing in general, right? That's just
Oh yeah,
everyone can.
DJ
Yeah.
has some limited anti-air options. I can like do 4 heavy kick, which is a very good anti-air. There's also his 5 heavy punch, which is also kind of decent, but does have some. But you have to be more positional about it. Then there is the flash kicks, but the flash kicks need to be charged. So yeah, I have a few difficulties occasionally.
And that's just part of learning the character, right? How you want to anti-air
Yep.
in particular, right? I think that besides DP, right, you can anti-air with that. I think you can anti-air with crouching heavy kick as well. It's a little bit weird, right? Do that way.
Oh yeah, I know, but
The
you have to
backslide or
like
whatever.
have yeah, the slide
Yeah. I
which does
also,
need to be on a
yeah,
specific range,
yeah,
but otherwise it can work as well.
yeah, and then That one and the back, is it back heavy kick? I think it's back heavy kick. The one where he puts his leg up
Yeah,
in the
back
air.
heavy
Yeah.
kick.
So I
Yeah.
think that one's your primary one. Yeah, I would definitely consider that more often if you don't have charge, right? So if you don't have charge, use back heavy kick. If you
Hmm.
do have charge, ideally you want to up kick me, right? Flash kick me. So,
Hmm.
right, so again, we see it here, right? You block a few things, and then I just go for a low, right? I drop my combo, right? And then you DI'd, right? So again, we see that same pattern, right? Like, oh, something happened, I'm gonna just walk back, right? I get clipped, and then as soon as I have action
Also, you
again, I
did.
DI. Sorry, go
Also, can you rewind it a little bit back?
ahead.
Not exactly at the start, but like after before doing the DI.
Hmm.
Oh, I could also grab you if. Oh wait, I was in the distance, I think, for the grab because if I didn't roll it back, I could go for a grab.
Yeah. Actually, you could have gone for anything here. So DI is like a million frames, right? It's actually pretty
Yep.
slow. It's like 25 frames here, right? So you can see the DP recovery from that run DP is 48
Mhm.
frames, right? So are you familiar
Yeah.
with the frame meter and all that in Street
Oh
Fighter?
yeah, I have
Yeah.
used it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see, right? Like you recover here, but the reason why this worked or didn't work for you here is because you went for a really slow punish, right? So actually, if you had DI'd right away, you might have been able to hit me here. So let's take a look. Right, so from here, right. So the DI would have worked as a punish in this scenario. It's just that it was a little late. Now, if that's
Oh
just due
yeah, it's
to
reversal.
yeah, if that's just due to some of the rollback and lag, it is what it is, right? But you can see like the actual advantage that you have here is huge, right? Like I'm in recovery forever here, right? For a really long time. So if you see whiff DPs and stuff, DI is not a bad option in this scenario here. Normally it doesn't drop, right? Normally that's a full combo, whatever. That's why I went for it. But if you get an opportunity like that, DI can be okay if you know for sure that I'm in total recovery, like a whiff DP, something like that. But instead, you can use other punish counter starters, right? So DJ can do like stand heavy punch or something else that will definitely work, right? So from like right here,
Mhm.
right? Like stand heavy punch, right? Or whatever else part. I don't play DJ, so I can't tell you exactly what the combo route would be. But I have seen DJs use like the stand heavy punch as like the combo starter, right? So you can do that as well. I would say that now, obviously, you've labbed certain combos and you know how to do them. So this is probably why you went for the DI here because you know that DI combos pretty well. What I would suggest
Yep.
you learn would be a couple of meterless DP punishes, right? So big moves that you block like supers, dragon punches, flash kicks, whatever, where there's a ton of recovery. Learn a meterless route that allows you to do a ton of damage without having to use DI, right? Because there are going to be times where maybe you're burned out and block this, right? You don't have access to DI. So how are you going to deal damage from that? How are you going to punish me for missing this DP, right? So take a look at Super Combo or talk to folks in Discord. I'm sure there are good routes for DJ that you can take for a DP punish that are meterless, right? So I would start there as well. So some of the punishes
Yep.
here, right? You can definitely like you could have dealt a ton of damage to me here, right? You could go into a combo route, right? End it in super, which is probably what you wanted to do here. I'm assuming is that you wanted to do your metered combo through this, right? The one you did previously, and end in super,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Minus the super
okay,
because I usually keep it for more either if it guarantees free kill
hmm
or to force burnout.
okay. So we can talk about that, the meter management piece a little bit after this, but let's take a look at the rest of this round. We'll talk about it. All right, so good jump. All right, so drop that combo. Unfortunately, back up through fireballs. So this is fine. Don't mind this right now. Right. So here you press, right? It looks like you try to press something, excuse me, after the plus frames, right? So it's okay to try that if you think the opponent is not going to try to frame trap you here. But I did, right? So this is
Yep.
a frame trap, right? So, and then you try to attack and I jump it. And then I drop my combo here, unfortunately. So how'd you get hit right here? Right? What happened? So you jumped. I block. And then you back up. Right? In this case, actually, it looks
Yeah,
like you're whiffing buttons, right? So the jabs were whiffing. And then when you decided to
yeah.
press your bigger button here, or sorry, you were still in recovery when this happened, right? So this is what I was talking about earlier, where whiffing buttons in front of people is typically not a good idea because it can be punished, and this is kind of what happened here, right? So, and then I dropped the combo, but you get thrown, right? So,
Yep.
if we talk about where I think we can improve right away. The two big things I would say would be to be careful of your movement after an event happens, right? So try not to DI right away. Try not to back up right away. Be willing to, and I say this a lot, like stand your ground, right? It's kind of a newbie fight club thing if you're familiar with that. Basically, you
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily want to back up, right? Because either you get clipped low or you give up space. So if you were to be standing there, crouch blocking instead, a lot of the stuff that I was doing would not have worked the same way, right? You won't get clipped low and then take a combo. You won't get put in the corner, right?
Yep.
Alternatively, and additionally with DI, you have to be careful about doing DI neutral. Again, if players are adjusting to that, right? If you look at the rest of the games we play, you see that instead of me pressing buttons that are uncancelable, I'll typically just walk up and press a button that is cancelable, wait for you to DI, and then react to it, right? So that's how I adjusted to what you were doing. So those two things, right, in neutral, you kind of have to be careful. Try not to just back up right away. Try not to use DI. And then the other thing would be not whiffing buttons, right? So, you know, understand the ranges you're standing at, right? Try not to press as many buttons overall. Instead, try to land them, right? So you saw
Mm-hmm.
like when we were playing, even though it was blocked, right? Even if the button was blocked, it did force a situation in general, right? So like you can't whiff punish me if I hit you, right? Or you have to if you block
Yep.
it, I can't whiff punish you, right? So basically, that like if you do those two things, I think you'll start winning a lot more, right? Because you'll be able to land more buttons, be able to cancel them into drive rush or whatever else, and then be able to put people in the corner, right? So
Mm-hmm. Although I will need to like learn the distance
mm-hmm.
of the moves because if I wanna not whiff them, I gotta know how the reach.
Yeah, we can talk about how to do that in the lab, but yeah, it's definitely something you'll need to spend some time doing. So let's take a look at
Mm-hmm.
one of your sets here. Okay, let's take a look at this one. I think it's probably going to be a good one to look at. So, ranked match, right? Let's take a look. All right, looks like you got a round here. All
Yep.
right. What else did I want to say? Oh, and then anti-airs, obviously, right? You'll have to drill that a little more, right? There's some practice things you can do in the training room that
Oh
will
yeah,
help with
there are
that.
some presets. I do use them,
Mm-hmm.
plus some extra stuff.
Yeah. So use that. Be comfortable with the back heavy kick and the up kicks, right? Those things will help a ton.
Yep.
Because at these ranks, there's not a whole lot of like footsies being played, right? You're not really trying to walk in and out of ranges and press buttons and all that. Typically, what you see more at these ranks is going to be a lot of jumps, a lot of raw drive rushes, and a lot of neutral skips, right? So
Yep.
Jamie doesn't really have a neutral skip tool outside of like using drive rush and jumps, right? Like driver stand heavy punch is really good. Palm, I guess, is another one, right? So there's some good tools he has. Rather, I guess not saying he doesn't have tools is incorrect, but he has tools to get around that, right? And a lot of Jamies play that way. They'll jump, they'll DI
Yep.
you, they'll do all these things to not play this mid-range game, right? So let's take a look what happens.
Yep. And also, I think in this one, I think I gave him too many opportunities to drink, so he can
Mm-hmm.
unlock more of his moveset if I understand how Jamie works.
Yeah. So typically drinks in neutral are unsafe, right? It's a ton of recovery, it takes a lot of time and all that. But after like target combo and other knockdowns, he's going to be able to drink. Now, typically Jamies that get to like drink level 2 or 3 is about where they want to be. If they get into 4, it means they're going to win. The character's kind of absurd at 4 drinks. So preventing them from drinking usually means that you have to win more neutral interactions, right? So if you lose a neutral interaction like you did here, right, where he hits you with the low, and take the target combo, he's gonna get a drink, right? Nothing you can do about that. The only thing you could have done was not get hit, right? So, right, good jump. which is a combo, and then the target combo for DJ here is unsafe on block, right? So he's able to punish you, right? So
Yep, I am aware of that. I can also like feint it, but sometimes I don't do it in hopes that I do land it in its entirety.
yeah, like sometimes they'll press there, right, and you get a counter hit, and then you can and you hit them. So we'll see what happens here. You landed a jump in. Well, you didn't land it, but you jumped in. They blocked. Let's see what happens. Okay, so 6, right? So you're able to block. Jamie goes in target combo again. Punish counter. It's okay. Okay, Ascent Air. Thrown. Right, and then we see that here, right? Right, you try to do the crouch medium punch, is blocked, right? Back up, DI, right? So the Jamie doesn't quite punish you. Oh, he does. Okay, he jumps.
And it's cross up as well.
Yeah, so he doesn't quite get you with a counter DI or punish you as hard as they probably could, but they were able to hit you, right? And that would represent a ton of damage from a player that is able to convert that. So you do have to be careful about your DI usage in general, right? Typically, as you climb up, your DI usage will go down overall, at least in neutral, right? DI at a higher level is typically used as a response to specific situations or as a read, right? So, and then of course in stun situations as well, right? If you don't have meter, right, you're in the corner and you're trying to stun them, right? So using it in neutral like this as like kind of almost like a poke, right, or like a button, typically it's gonna get punished, right? So, and you see that happen here, right? You get jumped, unfortunately. So. Right, and now Jamie's at 3 drinks, or 4 drinks now, because you lost 4 neutral interactions, right? Like the Jamie here didn't actually drink unsafely, right? Like they didn't just drink in neutral. They would land a hit and then convert that into a combo that allowed them to drink, right? So that happened 3 times, and then the other time was a forward throw that they can drink after, right? So.
Yep.
And then here's that neutral script, right? The drive rush, stand heavy punch, right? So. Okay, let's see the punish. Okay, so
I still have one for the OD or at the very least the heavy.
All right, so this is what I was talking about with the meterless punishes that you want to lab out and be ready for. Stuff like this, a very unsafe move on block, is going to happen a ton. People kind of just do stuff at these ranks, right? Maybe it was a misconfirm, right? Maybe they thought it was a hit and didn't, but you had an opportunity here, right? So they're really minus here.
Exactly.
Right. So you could do basically anything here, right? Except maybe DI. I think this might be too short for DI. But you can use or do a punish counter combo from here, right? Meterless, maybe a side switch, whatever. But you do want to know those combos, right? Because weak punishes like this, right? Like you did 1300 damage here. This is tough because you could have basically back through them for the same amount. Right, actually it would have been more if you had back them, right? So because it's punish counter, right?
Oh, I think you cannot grab it.
You should be able to,
unless you go a little more forward and while they're close to recovering.
Oh, maybe I'm just bad. Hold on. Okay. I guess not. But at any rate, if you were to get a punish counter throw there, it's 2,000 damage actually, right? So it would have been higher. But yeah, you do want to make sure that you are able to punish in these opportunities, right? Because again, you're going to have a lot of them in these ranks, right? Whether it be whiff DPs, miss supers, right? All that stuff. So have a punish ready from the situation here, right? 1300 damage is not going to really cut it here, right? You have an opportunity to do, 4,000 damage potentially, or 3,000, 4,000 damage if you decide to super here, right? So, be willing to, lab that out and be ready for it, basically.
Yep.
Because that's a pretty easy thing to lab, right? Like you can spend a little bit of time, look up super combo, ask the Discord, whatever, find a couple of combos that work for you, train them out, and then just use them next opportunity you get, right? Okay, go for throw, good. Right. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh, that was a misinput.
Yeah, I was going to say that's unfortunate. It would have been cool if you landed that, no big deal, but you did land the jump in, so that's good. Let's take a look at the next round here. Alright, counter it here. They try to press something, let's see. Okay, so typically, after a hit like that, you do want to use drive rush, right? especially for Dee Jay here. Now I don't know the route exactly, so I'll have to make it up.
I think with a medium punch you cannot really cancel it to drive rush.
Is it not?
Oh, I meant like the 5 MP, not
Yeah,
the
the crouching
down.
medium punch
Yeah.
you definitely can. Right? It's definitely cancelable, but yeah, you do want to drive rush into a combo from there. Right now, I don't know the route, but you do want to drive rush into something that will allow you to extend your combo here and do a little more corner carry. Right. There's some pretty
Yep, yep.
basic stuff you can do right with drive rush there, but you definitely want to land that if you can. Right. I don't actually know the route here, but you definitely have it right. Right, whatever the route happens to be. I think it ends in like Sobot or whatever, but and you have some routing you can do depending on how you combo and all that. But you
Yep.
definitely want to have a drive rush combo that you can do for a corner carry, right? Basically to extend your combo and put them further into the corner. And I
I
think
think
that's
with medium, I think with medium punches, I think I can cancel it to light sorbet. Oh wait, no, not sorbet. I mean the uppercut.
mhm. Yeah, because you'll have charge, right? So after the drive rush, you do a button that's crouching, and that might give you charge. Again, I don't know the full route there, but there is one, right? So learning the drive rush combo off of that is going to be pretty important, like
Hmm.
for into platinum and diamond, right? Because a lot of folks will use drive rush cancels, right? And a big reason for that is because the corner carry you get after landing a hit is important, right? Being able to extend your combo, deal a little more damage, right? Move them closer to the corner. Because what happens to you here, actually, you land this hit, and then nothing happens, right? So if you weren't ready to cancel, it's not a big deal, but you could have converted, like it's an opportunity missed, if you will, right? So
Honestly, I didn't thought that I could actually cancel it to drive rush.
okay,
Which is why.
yeah. So you should be doing
The
that.
more you
Yeah,
know, the more you learn, as they say.
yeah. So right here, right, big punish opportunity, right, and then it's kind of a weaker punish with the sweep, right, with the
Yep.
crouching medium kick, right, or
Actually, not. It's two medium kick.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not.
I
Actually,
mean,
it
it's
does
technically a sweep,
cause a hard knock,
but
but yeah.
yeah, crouching medium kick here, right?
Yep,
So,
yep.
but you can see like the damage you get from this is pretty low overall, right? So, these kind of opportunities, again, we'll just have I'll emphasize it again here is that you should be spending a little bit of time going through and learning some of these combos, right? Because a lot of times, like you said, it's a bread and butter combo, right? It's not going to be something you'll not use anymore, right? You'll use that for the rest of your Street Fighter career, right? So,
Mhm.
okay. So the Jamie here did an unsafe move, right? And he just punished with a DP, right? So sweep, right? Does this, which is -8, and then your DP comes out in 5 frames, right? So, or 6 frames rather. So you're able to punish it here. Fine, not too mad about that. But if you
Mhm.
do block something
But
like that,
again,
missed opportunity, right? 8 frame from here.
mhm.
Right? So
Yep.
driver's extension, all that stuff, right? So 6 frame punish would have been good there. Anyway,
Mhm.
right? So landing hits. Alright. So you can see on these here what he's doing, right? He's just doing the low into the cancel of the first hit of that. But if you look at the frame data here, right, get hit again. And from here though, let's see, Jamie's -6. So I don't think there's really a punish. There's probably a punish you could do here. I wouldn't worry about it too much for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't worry about that too much. Get a hit. Go for throw. Tex. Okay. Right. So jump in. Something happens. DI. Right. Gotta be careful about that. Get jumped. All right. Big punish opportunity again. Better. Right. Better punish, but again,
I
If
think that was unintentional, but I'm still proud of it. I
yeah,
will
yeah, don't
admit.
worry about it. But if you consider it this way, right? Like if any of those opportunities you had, you actually fully punished them, you probably would have killed them already, right? Like if each punish is like 3,000 damage, Jamie only has 10,000 health, right? So you probably would have killed them by now if that's if, you know what I mean. So I think you win this
Mhm.
run anyway, so it's not a huge loss overall. But any opportunity your opponent has to come back is bad, right? You want to finish them off in the round if you can. So,
Yep.
right, Jamie's level 4, does the palm, EX palm, right? Punish opportunity here because he went for the continuation and blocked. And there's your D-Rev, right? So if you weren't sure if how minus that was, I don't mind this as much, right? Because I think
I
after the...
think it's -23
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
when you did the second.
Yep. But if you weren't sure at the moment, right? Like here, he's only -1, right? If you press here, though, I think you get frame trapped. So instead, he does this, which is unsafe, right? Now, if you weren't sure at the moment, in this moment, because this doesn't show up in the game, right? If you weren't sure in this
Yep.
moment, you derevved. I don't mind that as much, right? But you definitely want to start paying attention to some of these bigger punishable moves, right? Because this spends meter in a situation where you had a full punish opportunity, right? So
And it also like takes away health, but also keeps some as recoverable.
yeah, it's great health, right? So you can't kill, but it's great health that you deal, right? Whereas if you had just punished this, you would kill him, right? Because it's
Yep.
-23 or whatever. So any route you take would definitely kill from this situation here, right? So instead, now you have to deal with the Jamie level 4, right? DI again. Right. Okay. All right. So, what's happening here is actually pretty typical. I think of gold level play and platinum. Actually, even almost into diamond level play. You're both, excuse me. You're both playing really, really passive because you're afraid of losing, right? Like any
Yep.
straight hit from either of you will result in death. So you're both trying to play kind of passive here, not taking too many risks, right? The issue though is that the space you're playing at, I mean, it's totally okay for this level. I don't hate anything that's happening here at this level. Go for DI, right? Now they're like, oh crap, now a straight hit will definitely kill me, right? So, okay. All right, that's actually pretty
That
good.
was a like.
Well, it worked out, right? I mean,
Yep.
if you consider what was happening here and why that worked. Okay, it won't let me go back if it already. Right, so from here they're trying to walk forward. They actually were trying to. They didn't actually input anything. They just kind of down backed, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, round one. Anyway, so you managed to jab them as they came into your space, and that's pretty fundamental, actually, to the game. So that's actually a pretty good job there. All right, sweep, punish opportunity. Unfortunately missed because you weren't timely on the press, unfortunately, right? So if you see here, the recovery is done. And then you don't press until after the animation, right? So something that you may have to get used to in Street Fighter is that there's a lot of like animation that is kind of after the fact, right? So you can see here that Jamie is still kind of doing stuff, right? Like he's in recovery, but your character after having blocked is not, right? So like as soon as this happens, right, the block here, you block this. If you know what you're going to do after this, you can actually kind of mash it a little bit, right? So in Street Fighter 6, there's a frame buffer, right? So you have a 4-frame buffer plus a 1 frame for the input, right? So like you can press this up to 5 frames early and it'll still come out, whatever button you want to press here. So something you'll just have to get used to, I think, in situations like this is that if you recognize the move as something unsafe, just be ready for the punish and know, I guess you'll have to learn that the situations that like this where your character can move and the character can't, right? This is like an animation, right? That's something you'll have to pick up. And Jamie's a little weird like that because he has a lot of this, right? A lot of these moves do stuff, and then he keeps doing things, but there's no hitbox, right? There's no hitbox that's out here.
Yeah.
Your recovery is done here. You can press whatever you want here, right? So you don't have to necessarily wait for him to stop moving, but you do have to wait after the block. So if you really wanted to, like, you block this sweep, because this is a sweep from Jamie, right? Too close. As soon as you block this, you can actually start mashing whatever thing you're going to do, right? So, right, if we can do that, or, right, whatever it is, you can actually kind of start mashing that, right? Once you mash it and you see the move come out, then you can cancel into whatever, right? So that's something you can consider doing until you get an idea of where and how long it takes for things to recover, right? It's just something you'll have to learn in the game, right? So,
Yep.
unfortunately not, though. He blocks it here, right? So now we're both standing at a space where it's uncomfortable. Jamie tries to do something, you jump, right? So this is actually okay. I don't mind this as much. Try to get out of the way. Anti-air miss, unfortunately. I think he went for it, though. It needs to
Yeah, I
be
was
back,
going
right?
for the air.
Oh, actually, it looks like you tried to up kick, right? It just didn't come out. So you had charge.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you had enough charge anyway. Let me see. One sec. Let's see how long that actually takes.
Oh, I think yeah. Since it was back down,
Yeah.
I think I already had a
Yeah,
charge,
you had
but
charge.
it was a little too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The charge time for Dee Jay's up kicks is 40 frames, so it's actually pretty short, relatively speaking.
Oh, it's good.
So you definitely had charge there. You know, missed opportunity is what it is, but now you know, right? So
Yep.
you had charge here. It just didn't come out. That's okay, right? You might have the back might have been you pressed a
Yeah.
little early, right? Not on the up, right? So that's why the back medium kick is what comes out. You get hit. Is what it is. No big deal. So going from there. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Right. Get thrown. Right. Jump. You tagged. Alright, so if we look in this situation here, be kind of far, right, for the button you're going to press.
Yeah, I had an opportunity for an ant here, but
Yeah, missed it, but that's okay.
due of the panic, I didn't get
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Right, go for the DI here. It's probably going to hit. Alright, splat. Right, missed the follow. I think it's a machine gun uppercut follow-up, right, but it's okay. Alright. Fights out of the corner here. More jumps. And you got DP there, right? So. Alright, so right here, how'd you get hit? Right, let's take a look.
No.
Right. So, Jamie's minus 10. After that, they cancel. And that's where you get hit, right? It looks like you tried to potentially up kick here. Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, if you're going to blow through pressure like this, you do have to use the OD version.
Overdrive.
Yeah. Now the issue here, and this is kind of SF6 specific, is that the drive rush here eats your inputs, right? So as soon as Jamie cancels into this drive rush here, sometimes what'll happen is that your up input will get eaten, right? So you can see here, like, nothing's happening, but your input is going through. And the reason for that is because of the drive rush, right? So you do have to wait a little bit if you're going to reversal here. Now for charge characters, it's a little tricky. For motion input, you can just mash it, right? You just mash the DP input until it comes out. For a charge character, it's a little bit trickier, right? You have to wait for the green flash, right? So from here, right? After the hit, right, you have charge. Right. Oh, I can't do it. Right. So you have to wait a little bit, right? Delay just a touch after the green flash. So it's like, oh, you've decided to reversal here. Once you see the green flash, then you can try to input the up, right? It's a little bit weird and something you'll have to lab out, unfortunately. I don't play a charge character, so it's a little tough for me, but you could reversal there. The other thing you could do, potentially, is derev, right? So if you see the green flash, right? As soon as you see the green flash, you can do the derev, right? And this is really good, actually. The reason for that is because of the meter expenditure. Right? No, I didn't talk too much about meter in general here because I think it's not as important at these ranks. But I'll mention it here is that D-Rev is only 2 bars of meter and driver's cancel is 3 bars, right? So he had to use a lot of resources to try to do that. You had to use less resources, right? He used half of his resources, you used the third. And the situation is reset, right? So he spent a lot of bar for nothing, basically, right? So I won't
Mhm.
talk too much about meter in general, but that is a reason why you can do a D-Rev against a drive rush, and it's worth it, right? That's why people do it. If you were going to reversal again, use OD. But anyway, cool. Right. Unfortunately, did you get hit? Right. So, ooh, okay.
Oh, yeah. From there, I think I kind of lost it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this, right? So from here, get hit. Right, so it's technically your turn here, but you don't have to press anything. You try to do the up kick here, and then the Jamie sweeps and misses and blocks, right? So in this situation right here, you could have done a meterless combo into CA, right? Or even spent 3 bars depending on what route you want to take here. Maybe it's 2 bars depending, and deal like 5,000 damage, right? So you can deal 5,000 more, 5,000 plus, right? DJ has some good routes. So you could put them in a situation where they're gonna die, right? In one more hit. You'd also take some of their meter away, right? So you land a punish counter here, take some of the meter, and then you do the super, which takes another bar and a half, right? So you take away 2 bars, put them in a situation where they don't have meter. That said, like I know you had mentioned that you want to try to save super for situations where it'll kill or stun or whatever. I think that if you have an opportunity to use your level 3 in round 3, you should take it, right? If you have an opportunity
Mhm.
to route into super, just take it, right? Just do it. The reason for that
Okay.
is because you build super really fast in this game, right? So at this point, you probably won't get another super opportunity, probably not. But earlier in the round, right? If you were, I landed one of those hits earlier and went into super there, it puts you in a pretty advantageous position, right? So like you can't take the super with you into the next game, right? Like there's no more rounds anymore either, right? So
Mhm.
like what are you saving it for? You have to use this meter here. You should be using it, right? If you can. Especially level 3. Like if you have level 3, I'm gonna say that at this rank right here where you're at, if you have level 3 an opportunity to use it, just use it, right? If you do it
Okay.
early, you could potentially have, like, let's say you did this at the beginning of the round, right? The first interaction you won, you did this. You may actually get level 1 by the end of the round, right? And that's enough to potentially put you into the, give you enough damage to win at the end, right? Is like, oh, I only have one
Mhm.
more hit left or whatever. I can super and get out of this, right? Because again, the amount of damage you deal for this is huge, right? This is a CA, right? You can deal a ton of damage here, and you have to deal that damage to win anyway, right? Whether it happens at the beginning of the round or end, it doesn't matter all that much, right? So that's what I'll say for that for now. To make things easier for you for your routing, if you want to go into super or you have an opportunity to go into super, you should probably go into super, right? In most cases, you know, there's not really, again, not really a huge compelling reason in these sort of ranks to not do it, right? Because you can see, like, if you look through the game, right, super opportunity here, right? If you were to do the driver's cancel, there's one chance there. Okay, keep going through this. Right. I don't know if I'd super against in this situation here, like after the wall splat because of the scaling, but you could. Yeah, he didn't block that, but it's okay. Good DP'd. I think there's one more instance of sweep here that he does. Oh, okay, never mind. I take that back. That's the previous round. Whiff. Super opportunity here, right? So,
Yet another whiff.
yep. Then he kills you from here, right? So,
Yep.
I think that if we were to try to classify the things that you could be doing immediately that would help your game, right? Like, oh, if I implement this right away, I'll probably start seeing more wins. Would be the autopilot backing up and DIing in neutral. So doing that less, right? The reason why that will help you is because it'll open you up less, right? So you'll be taking less damage overall if you're able to stop those two habits, right? It's tough, but you know it's something to do.
Yeah, and it will also kind of like help me with being a little more confident with pushing a little more, like having the pressure,
Mm-hmm.
because usually I think this is more of a beginner thing, but I have this fear that if I do something risky, if I go too forward,
Mm-hmm.
it may backfire, and I'll end up just putting myself at a bigger
Yeah,
disadvantage.
and the thing that I think people struggle with is that your opponent is also dealing with the same thing, right? Like they also have to take risk to walk forward, to press buttons and all that. So that's where like that neutral game comes in, right? So both players are trying to do that, but you have to be willing to press buttons at ranges that are a little uncomfortable, right? Because how else can you hit
Yeah.
them, right? Like not everyone has like sim like limbs where they can just reach across the screen, or like zoning aspects like JP or Guile where they
Oh
can sit
yeah.
back, right?
Hmm.
So you're playing a character that has have some zoning aspects, but typically wins the game by doing mix-ups in winning neutral interactions and doing mix-ups in neutral or on Oki, right, to win. So
Yeah,
those
I
two,
think
yeah.
if I recall correctly, I think DJ is classified as a mix-up character. I think some people also call him Rustdown, but
Eh,
he, based
yeah,
on my perspective, he leans more on the mix-up side.
he's a little bit trickier, right? I think he tries to get you to. Well, he controls space really well with his buttons, right? So he's able to kind of control the mid range with some of the longer range buttons, right? And a lot of them are safe on block if they're spaced correctly. Then he also has feints and other things to try to bait you into doing things, right? So it's a little bit like a
Yep.
trickier feints type character. Then he has setups and stuff and knockdowns, but we didn't really talk too much about that. But I'll talk about it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, as a character though, he's not really a zoner, right? Like he has a good fireball,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
it's jumpable, right? That's why he has a feint. But yeah, for you right now, if you were to not DI as much in neutral, right? Still do it if it's working. Like if your opponent can't react to it, then whatever, right? It's not a big deal. But if you're getting hit, right, like while you're backing up or your DI is getting countered, I would take a look at that, right? Look at your replays and see, oh, I'm getting hit. Why did I get hit? And it's because I went for a DI that got punished, or is it because I backed
Hmm.
up and got tagged, right? So be willing to crouch block a little bit longer. Once nothing is happening, then you can back up, right? As soon as like both of you have
Yep.
stopped pressing, then backing up is probably okay, right? Not a huge deal there, right?
Hmm.
So that's the first thing. The second thing would be anti-airing, right? So jumping is very, very prevalent at these rinks, right? So people will jump at you. That's just how it goes. That's life
Yep.
in general. So getting used to up kicks or back heavy kick. I think back heavy kick is what I said, right? Whatever DJ's anti-air buttons are, get used to those, right? So be comfortable using them, right? Typically with jumps, the way that they normally work is that they're jumping over something you're doing, right? So either they're jumping over a button or a fireball, or potentially just jumping at you, right? So what I would recommend you do is be like, and this will tie into the next thing I'm talking about, is you just kind of have to watch the spacing you're standing at, and then you have to devote some of your mental stack towards looking for jumps, right? I've seen
Hmm.
folks and talked to folks that have said that, and some of the higher level players, or whatever, they're dedicating like half their mental stack to jumps, right? So they're actively looking for jumps most of the, well, almost more than half the time, if not at least half the time. And the reason for that is because jumps are so hugely rewarding for the jumper, right? So if you jump and land your jump in, that represents 30 to 50% damage, right? 30% typically for
Yep.
most characters on meterless. If they convert, use drive, super, whatever, they can deal a ton of damage, right? Whereas if you
Not to
anti,
mention,
yeah,
DJ also has a also has unique normal,
mm-hmm,
which is basically when you're doing a forward jump, you can do two LK like kick,
mm-hmm,
which gives him like this attack where he attacks his opponent with his knee.
yeah,
It has a pretty good startup, and it's also obviously safe on block.
yeah, and it's active forever, right? So if
Yep.
you're able to use that effectively, either as I don't know if the people use it as an air to air, but you can jump in with it for sure. But yeah, I mean, definitely using that. Like, but that's what I mean, though, right? Is that the jump in is way more rewarding for the jumper than the person defending it, right? Because if you defend it, like even like Ken Dragon Punch is like 1100 damage or whatever, right? You deal some damage, but it's not a huge deal. Versus if you land that, you deal like 4,000 damage, right? So, you know, it's a huge, you know, the risk reward is heavily skewed towards the jumper, right? So people are incentivized to jump, which means that you have to do your job as well as you can to prevent those jumps, right? So, those two things I think will help a lot in terms of you getting hit, right? So you get to play more if you don't get hit as much. So doing those two things will help stop you from getting hit. The other thing that will help a ton is the combo routing, right? So knowing a good set of combos to deal the most amount of damage in certain situations, right? So what I will say is that the combo routes you need to probably work on would be, so you have the DI one, right? So when you do a counter DI, you know that route pretty well, right? You're able to do it. The next thing I would learn would be a DP punish, right? So big move like blocked super, blocked dragon punch, whatever, right? Big minus frame buttons where you can press anything you want. I would learn that punish, right? So whatever that happens to be for Dee Jay. I think it's stand heavy punch starter, but I'm not 100% sure. Could be anything, but you do want to have a good, like, say 3,000-ish damage meterless conversion in those situations, right? And then you can kind of expand from there, like how much meter you want to spend and all that, and that's something you'll have to kind of figure out on your own. But you do want to have a very good dragon punch. Like, I'm going to call it a DP punish because that's typically what it's referred to as. DP punish, right? So block special, block DP, block something where the opponent is hugely minus. You need to have a good punish for that, right? So every time they do something like that, you need to do 3,000 damage or so, right? You need to be able to do that. And again, it's because in this rank, at the ranks you're at, people are going to be doing that stuff all the time. We saw in the ranked game we just watched, you had maybe 6 or 7 opportunities to do a full punish, right? Maybe even more, depending on, you know, how you want to classify some of that stuff. And if each of those represents 3,000 damage, you only need 3 of them to really win the game, right? Because normally there'll be straight hits and throws and all that stuff, right? So
Yeah,
you'll need to have
definitely
that.
get into.
Yep.
I saw definitely get into like those kinds of combos
Mm-hmm.
and conversions
Mm-hmm.
because usually my main toolkit is the bread and butter ones.
Mm-hmm. And that's just what you'll have to expand upon, right? And it's totally fine to start with those lower damage conversions that you're able to do, like the jab
Oh,
jab sobot.
saying otherwise. I'm
Yeah.
not saying otherwise. I
Yeah.
just wanted to note that
Yeah.
I know usually bread and butter
Mm-hmm.
combos.
And it's totally fine, right? You just have to
Mhm.
expand that, I think, because there are opportunities that will come up. So the DP punish and then the 6-frame punish, right? So in this game, a lot of the move, like basically, how do I put this? In some situations, you may not 100% be sure on how minus or how plus something might be, right? So, you know, you block something big. You're not 100% sure how minus it is, but you have an idea that it is. You want a 6-frame punish for that too. So for Dee Jay, I think that's crouching medium punch starter, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check here. Yeah, crouching medium punch starter, right? So you want to know how to route a punish from a 6-frame move, right? The other reason you want to know that is because D-Rev is -6 on block, right? So a little bit later on, right, when you're going through some of the Oki stuff and all that, like how to pressure people, you'll need to know how to do 6-frame punishes because D-Rev is 6 frames, right? -6 on block, right? So you need to know that. So yeah, those would be the things I would focus on now. The spacing stuff as well. I think I'll add that on here is the spacing. All right, so let's take a look at the lab real quick, and I'll show you how I would go about learning the spacing stuff, right? So just hop into training room here. Take DJ. All right, so spacing, right? In general, in neutral, right? So if we talk about what's going on here, let's set this back up. All right, so what I would do to train this, right? Let's say you go in the lab and you're like taking you 10 minutes to warm up or whatever before ranked. What I would do here to learn the spacing is I would go into training room like this, and if you take a look, right, you see these like lines in the back of the screen, right, and like hash marks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I would walk up, you know, use DJ here, right, your character, and then I would just kind of press buttons, right? So like, okay, my jab. Where can I land this at the tip, right? So typically a jab is pretty short, right? So it'd probably have to be like here, right? Land at the tip, right? And then all the buttons you want to do that too, right? So this button, how far or close do I have to be to land this, right? Right, stuff like that, right? So that's about where it needs to be, right? Similarly for other moves. Now DJ has some other moves, right, like this, right? You don't really need to know that range as much.
Oh
Well, you
yeah.
should, but you know it's a little different, right? Like doing that, it's a little different. But like his crouching
Mm-hmm.
medium kick, right? How far do I have to be to land at the tip, right? Right? You can see like I have to kind of walk up to do it, right? Like that's too far. All right, what about
Mm-hmm.
here, right? This will probably hit right here, right? So, and I would do it for all the buttons, right? Well, stand heavy punch, all right. I can do it from pretty far away actually because DJ advances, right? Same thing with stand heavy
Mm-hmm.
kick, right? He advances a little bit, right?
Also, the cool thing about 5 heavy punch is that if by any chance the opponent blocks it, if it connects on the tip, I actually have a better like the disadvantage is not as
Yeah,
bad
it's not as
as
minus, right?
hitting into yeah.
Right. Oh, it's reset to right. So -3. Right, -2, right? So if you are spacing it correctly, you have a little bit less disadvantage. But yeah, the idea here is that you want to land these buttons at the max possible range that you can land them at, right? The big reason for that is because in this game, because a lot of moves are minus in general, the space becomes very important as to how far you are after a button is pressed or not pressed, right? So if I press this here, like you're saying, right, at max range, yeah, on block, right, it'll be less, right? Like it can be 0 here even, right? So like if I'm too close, right, -3, which is still, well, -4 if I'm like point blank, which is not great, right? That's actually technically punishable. But if I land this on the tip, right, right, -2 is not punishable, right? It's safe on block, right? So having the correct spacing for your buttons means that you can press them at ranges where the opponent may not necessarily be ready for it, right? So like if I'm up here and I try to press this button, right, a lot of the advantage that comes from the heavier button, like longer range and all that, is negated, right? Because the space is super close, right? Because if you notice, right, like short moves, moves like jabs, right, they have less range typically, but they're faster, right? So like when you're up close, you know, you can press them and it'll definitely hit, and it's fine. But for longer range moves, they typically have more startup, right? Like heavier moves, they have more startup, more range, right? So again, the advantage here is that, you know, I can reach you, right? But if I'm up close and press it, right, my advantage is negated, right? So there's no reason for you to press the bigger buttons up close, except in punish situations, right? So like if you're obviously going to punish with this, right, big button, it doesn't matter how close you are, right? But in neutral, it does a little bit. So this is how I would go about it: is I would take my buttons, the ones I want to use in neutral, which for DJ I think is probably this, right? Maybe this, right? Stand medium kick, crouching medium punch, maybe crouching medium kick too. I would get a sense of how far I need to stand to land these buttons, right? Because these are ones you're probably going to be using in neutral more, right?
Mm-hmm.
This to poke, right? This to try to drive rush, right? This to sweep, right? Poke with this. So try to land at the tip. Right? And actually, crouching medium kick is a good example of this, right? So this move is normally -6 on block, right? So or -6. So for you were to do something like his jab or stand light kick after this, right? Right, I'm gonna get punish countered, right? Like this is going into donkey kick or whatever 5-frame, 6-frame punish that Ryu has that'll reach. But if I do from this range, right, all of a sudden that 5-frame punish doesn't reach anymore, right? Right. Right. So that's why the spacing becomes very important for a lot of these moves in Street Fighter 6, right? So being able to land this stuff at the tip of the range is going to be important, right? So, anyway, those would be the things I would work on. I can send you a thing later on for it, but that's what I would focus on for now, right? As far as like other stuff like Oki and setups and all that stuff, I wouldn't worry about it too much because there's not really a big reason to get better at that right away. But that is something you can look forward to, whether you know you can talk to people in Discord or whatever about what to do from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that if you were to look for an immediate improvement now, just those things will probably be enough to help you get into like mid plat in almost into diamond, right? So standing ground more, anti-air better, block on wake up. I didn't talk about that, but when you get knocked down, just block for the most part, right? It's, you know, there's no reason not to. and then the combo routing stuff, right? So basically, what we're trying to get at here is that I want you to take less damage overall because of the things you're doing, right? So take less damage overall and deal more damage when the opportunity comes, right? So again, you have to get them to zero before you get to zero, right? So the more health you
In other
have,
words,
the
it's
faster you
good.
kill them, yeah. So, is that good?
Yep, yep, it's all good.
All right, cool, man. So I do have to run, unfortunately.
Oh, it's
It's
all
morning
right,
here.
man. It's all right.
But that said, I think that hopefully with that, that should be enough to get you started. So
Oh
with
yeah,
that,
definitely. It
yeah.
also will help me because actually I'm gonna say this. Next weekend
Hmm.
I will be going on my first local Street Fighter tournament. In
Okay, right
Greece,
on.
we do have like Tekken tournaments,
Hmm.
but we also have on rotation like anime fighters and typical fighting games.
Hmm.
And for the first tournament, we're gonna start with the typical ones: Street Fighter, CBS,
Gotcha.
and likes. And I will be playing on Street Fighter 6.
Okay, right on, dude. Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. When you're there, something I'll mention for locals in particular, definitely get as much games as you can. I mean, you play Tekken, so you know what I'm talking about. But locals are
Mhm.
great for that, man. That's fantastic that you're playing that. So have a lot of fun. And don't be too mad about about the results
No,
because
no,
it's
no.
tough, right? But
I'm
yeah,
never mad about the results.
awesome.
Actually, I used to have a more of a temper when I lost back when I was in my Super Smash Bros. Days, but I was 30 years old at the time.
Hmm.
Now I'm 19, turning 20, so um
A little more mature now.
yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
mature. It's basically like comparing night and day.
Yeah, yeah. So cool, man. Yeah, definitely when
Yeah,
you're there, ask questions, talk to the high level players if you can. Get games for sure. So cool, man. Any other questions before we wrap up on stream? Think of?
honestly, I don't really think so. I mean, okay, I covered the modern stuff. I got enough sufficient of the basics.
Hmm.
So, for now, that's pretty much it.
Okay,
So
cool, man.
you pretty much covered everything, and I really appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
know. I'm great. Glad we were able to make this work. I know the time zone difference is a little tough, but
Oh yeah,
um,
definitely. And I
but
also hope I wasn't talking too much
no, you're
after
totally
all.
fine, man.
So is
You know,
after all, the show is called "Sit Down and Shut Up."
yeah, I know, right? But yeah, no, totally fine, man. Ask questions, talk
Yeah,
to me
that's
about
great.
what you're thinking. It helps. It definitely helps me kind of guide how to explain things if I get a better sense of how you understand things, right? So the more you talk,
Mhm.
the more you give me information on how you interpret things and understand things, it's easier for me to kind of give advice in that sense, right? So, yeah, cool, man. So the VOD will be up. You can definitely review it and take a look at it and
Mhm.
see what's happening there. And all that, but yeah, hopefully that helps. And cool, man.
Oh yeah,
So I'm
it
just
it
gonna
will
wrap up on
definitely
stream
help.
here. So I'll
Yep,
meet you
yep.
on Discord so you can hang out if you want, or take off. I know you got time stuff to do. So cool, man.
Oh yeah, I'll probably get back on more of the typical like again, go into the lab and check on things.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to do, so
Cool.
I'll drop off. So
Yep. Cool, man.
yeah, man.
All right,
Once
cool.
again, thank
Yeah,
you very
of
much.
course.
Great that it worked out.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, have a good one. All right, guys, sit down, shut up. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. I won't do the spiel today because it's early. So have a good one, guys.